Hello, hello. Welcome to the Five Petal Podcast. I am your host, Bridgid Burcano, and today we are going to talk about how the hell do I move on? So I was just talking to somebody about a long period of crisis. And if you're listening to this, maybe you've already had a dark night of the soul that you're recovering from. And that's why you're interested in such topics like spiritual transformation. I know for me, coming out of my times of crisis, it's difficult to move on because crisis becomes the new normal. And this is like casebook neuroscience. When you're used to survival thinking of, just I got to pay this bill, I got to get through this, I got to feed the kids, I got to, you know, show up and keep my head down at work. I need to pack up my house. I need to move. I need to, who knows what? I need to get through day to day with this abusive person. Um, so many different long-term crises that we can find ourselves in. And that just becomes the grind, the normal. And eventually, as things unfold, as they always do, maybe some situation eases up, maybe the kids get a little bit older, maybe your relationship evolves, or you move out of that terrible situation. Then space opens up. You took care of the thing that needed to happen, but who you are and how you interact with the world is still in the grind and the crisis. And it's the new normal. So transformational work and coaching work is really about addressing that. Uh, the difference between therapy and coaching is therapy looks to answer the question, like, what the hell happened? Like understand, unpack, like what's going on here? What are the factors at play? And coaching will do that too, but only in service to the goal. So therapy, you don't necessarily need to have a goal in mind. You're just going there because you feel sick. And so the therapist will help you figure out what the sickness is. And a really good therapist will understand it and lead you towards more wellness through their treatment. A coach, however, you come to a coach because you want a certain result. Like an athlete wants to, trim down their time, and they know that this coach has a way of working with athletes that they find inspiring. So they go to that specific coach to keep them accountable, to get them up at a certain time, to make sure they're eating the right foods, and to help them, support them with the structure to move towards their goal and possibly surpass it. So that's the difference between a therapist and a coach. The coach asks, what do I do? Like, how do you do it? Not what the hell's going on. It's how do I move forward? So the name of this episode is How Do I Move On? How? So how do I move on from crisis? And, I have my own specific worldview. I am a coach, and I'm here to coach in a specific way through a specific channel. And here's the one that I have found. And one way that it's been described, I think is really useful. There's this woman, Brittany Lowe Hartley. She wrote No Nonsense Spirituality. And something that she pointed out is the polarity of men's spiritual paths and women's spiritual paths. And I thought it was really insightful, and it really helps explain, my concept of coming home to yourself. And of course, coming home to yourself is really a good idea for men as well. There are ways that men need to, get more into their own emotional state, understand themselves more. and it's certainly helpful for them. But I'm talking about just a different overarching theme of like a life trajectory. So this is for women who are socialized as women, have the hormonal makeup of a woman with breasts and a uterus and menstruation and all of that, like the very typical cis woman. This is who I'm talking about. So Brittany Lowe Hartley, she says that men and women have a different spiritual evolution. So for men, they go on these quests of, joining a monastery and meditating for hours and hours and, dissolving the ego and eventually coming to this space where they are in a position to be more generous and see themselves as one with all. That is a spiritually evolved man. A spiritually evolved woman has started there. Like I I had no choice for the continuation of our species. I had no choice but to completely offer myself to my family. Um, and especially in this pressure cooker of like post-industrial America where we're all locked in our own little houses and we don't have the village passing through and stirring the soup, and the kids get to go run off to the creek by themselves. Like in this suburban urban American life that we have, like I had to be the village for my family. I had to make sure our house was hygienic. I had to make sure the babies ate. I had to make sure, my milk supply was up, and like it didn't matter what I wanted to do. I had to show up for my family. Whereas a lot of, new fathers, they have this ability to kind of maintain the same physiology, the same routine. Like they can choose to do more, but really they can kind of just do what they want, or they could just leave. It's crazy. Like if the mother doesn't feed, clothe their children, then, they do jail time. If a father just kind of runs off and doesn't do it, it's like kind of, a slap on the wrist, or they might, maybe child support will catch up with them, but probably not. It's like, it's so different. Like the expectations and the responsibilities that are really intertwined in just living your life are very different. So an evolved man will see this situation and show up and give more of themselves and dissolve their ego. Whereas a woman is already socialized to do that. And it's not even the socialization, it's like the hormones, it's biological, it's how I'm made. Like I always wanted to nurture as a girl, and boys can be nurturing too, like don't come after me. But I've always paid attention to the details of other people's needs, and I've always been emotionally attuned, and all of these ways of being lended themselves to me being a good mother. However hard it was for me to dissolve myself into this role, it was pretty natural. Um, a little bit of kicking and screaming, but I did it. And then the evolution was to find myself within that role, find my own worth, and stand up for my own needs. And in standing up for my own needs and getting a little bit more of a positive ego, I can then provide so much more for my community. Like my needs are in service to my children. My needs are in service to a healthy household and a healthy community. My needs of connection and order and, making sure that we eat good food, like that is in service to all. So evolution and transformation take a decision and take work. The work of evolution and transformation for a woman is to come home to yourself. And it sort of happens naturally, even with our hormones. You know, in the motherhood stage, we're making everybody feel comfortable. And then menopause hits, and it's like, I don't have to do that anymore. I am not in baby making time. And a shift happens for a lot of women where it's my time and I am not beholden. And I am a little more grounded in my decisions. And then for a man, kind of the reverse happens. The testosterone drops, and there's less of a drive to just kind of do what you want, and you naturally become a little more docile and generous. So it's interesting how nature has aligned with spirit in that respect. So back to the original question, how do I move on? Now, sometimes therapy doesn't really address how to move forward. And I love therapy. I love introspection. We just, if you're really wanting to improve your life, you've got to make sure that you're not like navel gazing and being a little too introspective, because that turns into a form of like narcissism where you think that you're like it's all about you and you're in control of everything, when you're not. Like, you don't actually have that much responsibility. Like, when we're in a crisis state, we've got tunnel vision and we're just trying to get through it and do everything that we can to make it better, and become totally self-focused in a different kind of way of like, what can I do? What can I do? How do I control this? And we're not seeing all the help that's available. We're not seeing the possibility and the opportunity. So that's kind of an interesting paradox to that. Like, women, if we're like losing ourselves to our responsibilities, and then we're also getting this tunnel vision of survival, it becomes a sort of like blinders on where we're not seeing the whole picture. So that is why I love my 5 petal framework. I feel like it really encompasses a great way to check in, have a reality check, and it's also a path forward. And you can go look at my first episodes where I spoke in depth about all of these, but I'm just going to go through them really quick. The physical petal is taking a look at how am I treating my physical body, because the physical body holds so much tension. The physical body has, our whole nervous system, which is tightly linked with, knee-jerk fear responses, and holds the emotion from our past. So I really like to look at somatic experience of emotion and energy work, which, integrates the spirit in with the physical body, that we can really feel things moving. The physical body also has to do with, um, your environment. Like, are you really connected with nature and the rhythms of nature, which, teaches us transformation over and over again through the seasons, a seed to a sprout to a tall tree to fruiting and then to dying back down again over and over and over. So physical is very important. And we could like talk about our problems all day, but you got to do something. Less talk, more rock. Okay, so that's physical. And then there's emotional. Uh, especially for those human design emotional authorities, like you have to cycle through all of your emotions about a situation before you can come into your authority and really make the true to you decisions. So emotional awareness is key for that, and knowing how to cycle through them and accept that you have them and understand the power of emotion. Which brings me to spirituality. They say emotion is the prayer. You know, you could have the most beautiful cathedral, but if nobody in there is feeling the emotions of like really communing with God, or really bringing their pain, or really, bringing their joy and their desire, then the prayer falls flat. Like it's all about emotion. It doesn't matter where it is, or how, like what words you say. The emotion is the prayer. um, and so there's a certain level of accepting our emotions and just feeling them thoroughly, and that is compassion. That brings compassion for ourselves when we allow ourselves all of the emotions. So yeah, there's just a lot to dance with there. I'm personally an open emotion center, so just because I feel an emotion doesn't necessarily mean it's mine, or like I have to work through it. There can also be emotional boundaries where you're saying, okay, that's not mine. You have that. I have myself. There's just a lot of things to parse out. So many details to this 5 petal framework that I coach people through. What's the next? Oh, we were talking about spirituality. Yes. So the unseen realms, ancestors, maybe there's the ancestral patterns that are continuing themselves through our DNA, through our ethos, and we need to do something to shift those to get a life that we want. I know I carry a lot of like poverty consciousness from ancestors who starved, or there was a lot of loss, and so there's this fear of opening up to love that I am still having to deal with. And I do a lot of ancestral tending to kind of let them know, like, hey, like things are a little better now. Like we can relax and open up to a beautiful world. Like that's my personal work of transformation and moving through. Um, there's so many ways to work with spirit. So many beautiful religions, so many beautiful philosophies, so many beautiful practices, animal spirits, land spirits, gods, goddesses, elements, music, spirits everywhere. And it's like I imagine tendrils of an octopus, it's like how you can connect with all possibilities through time and space, quantum physics, spiritual science. It's all so cool. What's the next petal? Mentality, mental petal. There's the learning about these things like human design, astrology, oracle. Yeah, looking at your human design chart and just deciphering, like, oh, okay, like, so this is how you're supposed to move your energy best. Like, let's try that out. Oh, what do you know? It works. Like, that was a thought before it was a practice. So, mentality is really important. And also just to be aware of, like, what kind of thoughts are you thinking? Are you thinking that this will never work out? Or are you thinking that everybody's coming after you? Or, it's really important to confront your mentality. A lot of people will, create worlds that validate the ideas that they have. Like if I'm being really suspicious of a friend, that they're stealing from me, like eventually something's going to happen where something that they do is going to like prove me right. And then I'll take that as like the ultimate truth. And lastly, the relational petal, checking in, like, okay, with all of these activities I'm doing to strengthen my physical body, to connect with spirit, to feel my emotions and to get my mindset in order, am I still being relational? And which means, am I taking in information from the human in front of me? Like, am I considering what they're saying to me? Am I running away and disappearing, or am I denying everything that they're saying? Or am I willing to believe that another person has a different concept of the world than I do? And maybe I now need to apologize for my part, or just accept a different point of view and let that be that and mind my own business. Like, relationality brings it all back to like us in the world, our relationship with the land. Am I just using the land and, pouring a bunch of poison into it and getting what I can out of it? Like, that's not being very relational. That's being exploitive. Or am I paying attention to the land and appreciating the land, listening to the cycles of the land and what the land needs and how it naturally works together, and then finding my piece of it to be within it? Another really important factor in relationality is, am I giving of myself? And by that, I mean, am I being honest about my personal, true reaction, my needs, who I am, what my preference is, what I really think about something, what my reaction is? If I'm withholding that sort of honesty and information because maybe I'm afraid that I'm afraid of rejection or exposure, if I'm withholding who I am from the world, then I am not being relational. It's not only about taking in what other people say, it's also about truly expressing yourself. And if you're not doing that, you're not relational. So all petals meet at the center, and that is the well woman's rose, coming home to yourself. The evolved woman who can master and understand each petal and how it relates to her and find her wholeness in the center of them all. That's my dream for you. And that's how I've found a lot of joy and wholeness. And that was a message from spirit. Like, I've been learning all these different modalities and been a solitary practitioner, just making my own relationships with spirit. And I was trying to find a way to describe my path of coaching and my path of healing. And that's what came to me. The rose, it's just a great symbol for standing big and strong, but also soft and delicate, and radiating this beauty and this healing with community, but also having proper protection of the thorn. The rose is a really inspiring role model for this work. It's really got to be a decision. Bravery is not the absence of fear. Bravery is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And wanting to move on more than you want to stay stuck. Wanting sobriety more than you want to drink. Like, wanting healthy lungs more than you want that cigarette. Wanting joy more than you're committed to this old story of nothing works out, everything sucks, life is so hard. Like, at a certain point, you can make that decision, and it's different for everybody. But that is definitely the first step, is just taking responsibility. They're like, okay, this is your life. Whatever has happened has happened. And we need to make sense of the past. I like to use ritual to properly grieve and bury the old dreams of the life that we didn't get. Or, when you grieve someone who died, you're grieving a dream that they would be around, grieving the dreams of like, oh, I really wanted to move to that place and I'm still here in this town, or grieving a career that didn't take off. Like you've got to give it its proper due and accept that things just didn't work out the way that you wanted them to. And then once you grieve, grief is releasing, grief is burying these dreams so they can compost with the earth and in the swirl of creation. And then you get this space where you can call something new in. And this is a ritual that can happen every day, sometimes every moment, moment to moment. Just putting these new beliefs in, like, maybe I do deserve to have a little fun. You know, if I let this go, then what could I really spend my attention on? Maybe pick up a new hobby. And then a coach will look at your day-to-day routine and say, okay, how are we supporting this new life that you want? Like, you've got to bring it in by doing it. You don't learn to do a triathlon by training like once a month and then calling it good. Like, you've got to do a little bit every day. It's a lot more helpful to do 10 minutes a day than just show up and expect it to work out and you can just swim and then you're changed and you're always a swimmer now. It's like, no, it's the same thing. It's these spiritual muscles, it's nervous system capacity increasing. It's called a window of tolerance. It's putting some fresh imaginings into how you're feeding your life, how you're feeding yourself, and contributing to what you want. That is how we move on. Clear the space and leave it open for sunlight, new decisions, new beliefs, and then some cute decorations. So let me know what you think of that. Is there anything I missed? What makes a transformation for you? I don't think it's necessarily like a one and done thing. There's the peeling the onion. Like, we have these wounds that are deep and we may just keep running into them. And the point is not to completely like carve everything out. We can carve a lot out. And then, you know, when we run into that scar, we say, oh, there's that scar. It's a part of me. I remember you. I know how you look. I know how you feel. I know what's there and I know what to do. I know what is a more helpful way to look at this. Let me know what you think. Write me an email, info@bridgidburkano.com. Leave me a review. That helps other people see these messages, and I hope to hear from you soon. Take care. Thanks for listening. If this spoke to you, give it a like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. To discover which of the 5 petals is asking for your care right now, take the free 5 petals assessment at bridgidburkano.com/self-assessment. In closing, I'll leave you with a favorite phrase I learned in Circle. What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and what's ours is ours. Until next time, be well.